So this is Capitulum Unum, Pater's Quarta, or Unit 1, Part 4. And we're going to, since we did have a break there over Thanksgiving, and Turkey has been known to cause memory loss, we'll go through the first declension and prepositions again, and the homework, which hopefully some of you have looked at. So with that, I will mute everybody and we will start our beginning prayer here. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. So, what we had
Michael, I got a quick question before we get started. The prayer reminds me, like this morning I was praying my rosary along with an online prayer because I kind of had my mind distracted and I was trying to stay on focus. The double L, how is that pronounced? Is it pronounced as an L or is it pronounced like in Spanish as like a Y?
The double L.
Like in illo tempore, is it io or ilo? I've seen words where it's, I can't tell sometimes how it's being pronounced.
Oh, you okay? You don't mean in here? I was going to say.
No, not in there. No, okay. Just in general.
I'm going.
I've seen it in prayers, and I've seen it in mass, and I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay, it is okay. You split it in half. It is an L at the end of the syllable, and an L at the beginning of the next syllable. So,
okay.
There's
two sounds, not one, and so it would be an L sound and not a Y.
Yeah, so A-L-L-I-U-M is allium.
Okay.
All right. So it is, which by the way, is the Latin word for garlic. So.
What's the one for onion?
Ooh, let's see here.
I know it's in the allium family, onions. And
okay. Actually, it is cepa. C-A-E-P-A, cepa.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. With that, and that's appropriate because cepa is a first declension Latin noun. So
that's exactly where my brain went. First declension. Okay.
So anyway, last time, and a couple times, we saw the first declension nouns. And those are nouns ending in A, okay? Like Maria, Vita, Ecclesia, Forma, Femina. I mean, we had a long list of it. Almost all are grammatically feminine. Papa, Pope is not. There's a couple of others in there, but I don't want to belabor the point. So when you look up a word or you see a new word, make sure you fix what the gender is in your mind. So, and I realize gender for nouns is something kind of weird because English really doesn't have it. The closest thing we have is are the pronouns. But quite important because as you're going to see, as we build up a vocabulary and verbs, etc., you're going to see that Latin writers like to play with word order to kind of make it flow. And so you got to kind of be, you got to kind of keep that in mind. And ultimately, you got to commit those endings to memory somehow. Flashcards, writing them out. I think somebody mentioned there were some flashcards from Collins on the internet. I will try and track those down and put it in a future emailing.
That phone app I told you about the last time. Because I thought it was the one you're trying to tell us to get in class.
Oh, yeah. They're right. Yeah, there are a number of apps available for iPhone and Android that have the endings or flashcards that are not dictionaries, I might add. Yeah, there's a number of apps for help learning. So whatever makes sense. I do recommend writing them down a couple times because I find, first for me and a lot of other people, writing helps the memorization process less so than reading. But on the other hand, having flashcards to review is great. And that I've also done in the past. And we had a number of nouns. Again, first declension. And the reason I stress this is in the dictionary, you won't see aqua, aquae. You'll see aqua, the AE ending, and then F. Since it's first declension noun, there's no reason to repeat the root. So you're going to see things like that in your dictionaries. But aqua, cena, culpa, doctrina, ecclesia, familia, gloria, gratia, hora, missa, natura, papa, terra, and vita. These should not be too hard to memorize. Okay, aqua, hey, we got it already. Doctrina and ecclesia, hey, already close to what we have. Papa, terra, well, okay, that's actually a Latin word that English has borrowed. So this shouldn't be too bad. And we did take a look at how you use these endings. We talked a bit about the nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative, and I realize those are these, but believe it or not, these are English words over here. It may just seem like they're in a foreign language. We'll work as we build up some of the things that we get. We can make constructions, and you can see how some of these are. Right now, the ones that you're going to be most likely to encounter are the nominative, i.e. when it's just a plain noun, both singular and plural. And then since we're introduced the prepositions, then the dative and the ablative. And we'll go through the homework, which hopefully will illuminate some of that. And oh yeah, and I also swiped Colin's list of words at the end, where you can see Latin root words all over the place. Latin, aqua. Well, we have aqueous, aquatic, aquarium, culpa, culpable, culprit, culprit, and exculpate. Ecclesia, ecclesiastical. Let me tell you, switching between Latin and English for me is I kind of have to like reload a whole set of brain cells. Ecclesiastical, ecclesiology, familia, familiar, family, but also as in household. And in the case of Latin, familia just didn't mean the nuclear family like we have it today. It included everybody in the household. So that would be extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, servants, the whole bit. Missa, mass, easy, or missal. Gratia, gracious, gratitude. Papa, papal, papist. And papa also mean, well, the word does mean father in Italian, as it does in English. You know, somebody might be your papa. Terra, terra firma, you know, terrace, terrier. Interesting. And inter, I'm not sure where those came from. Vita, vita.
Hey, Michael, terriers were bred to dig into the ground and chase after rabbits and foxes and critters.
Kind of like the what was the other one that went after the weasels and stuff? Were those dachshunds? I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. All right.
Pretty good terrier.
Thank you. Vita. Okay, we have vita. Vital. Whoops, that should be aquavit. Ooh, is it aquavit or aquavita? Oh well, vitamin. So that's the best way to learn vocabulary, is kind of tie them all together. Ultimately, what you want to be able to do, and this will take some practice. Let me jump back to here for a moment. At this moment, it's okay to use what I refer to as the secret decoder ring, where you see, say, China, and your memory flips through and you go, supper, dinner. Really, what you want to work on is when you see China, you don't have to translate it to English. You already know what it means in Latin. Think of it as a synonym, okay? Now that's going to take some practice, okay? And for those of you whose English is not your native language, I'm sure that's something that you experienced, is as you increased your English vocabulary, you didn't sit there going, well, this word in English means this word in whatever my native tongue is. Because if you did that, it'd be 6 minutes before you got a sentence out. So, and even though Texans kind of speak slowly, it still takes too long. But for the moment, don't worry about it. Other than that's the thing you want to work for. You when you see the word ecclesia, or let me put it this way: when you see the word church in English, in your mind, the concept of church immediately pops into your mind. You don't translate it to anything. Well, that's what you want to get to with ecclesia and ecclesiae, in this case, churches, plural. So again, practice. But what will help is to associate the Latin root words to something similar to that of English. The other one is we also have some outright borrowings from Latin. Any tion ending word comes from Latin. Now, these are third declension, which we haven't had yet, so don't worry about it. But the point is enunciation is from the Latin word enunciatio. Attention, attentio. Temptation is temptatio. And visitation is visitatio. So you've got a lot of Latin words in your mind already. You just may not necessarily realize it. So, but leverage off them. Anything that helps. So anyway, do not despair. It takes time, but it also takes effort. Yeah. So, I'll tell you what, before we get to the homework, any questions so far? I'll take that as a resounding no. Anyway, hopefully you've had time to look at the exercise at the end of Unit 1. I did want you to do the exercises. Since we're all Catholics and we're not supposed to lie, I want to ask everybody if they did them. But hopefully you did. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to go through them now here. Okay. And so for the first set, what the idea is you would take the word hore and translate or write down all of the possible meanings of hore. Okay. So what's the easy one? Plural. Hore, plural. The other one is possessive. So of the hours. And then the other one is dative, to or for the hours. So I'm going to highlight, let me do this one here. This is probably going to, yeah. Now this is how I do these. There we go. This is how I avoid having to type them in. Ta-da. Yes, confession is before Mass here. So you got the idea?
Yep.
All right. Anybody want to take teram? I'll give you a hint that the narrower lines have fewer possibilities. So you might, for those who are nervous about this, you might want to take the narrow lines. Any taker for teram? And I'm not going to let Teresa or Alex or Allison do it, or Maria. There we go.
I guess.
Oh, I forgot Adam. Darn it. Okay, go ahead, Adam. Were you going to take it, Adam? I thought I heard Adam. Oh, well, anyway.
No, that was me.
Oh, I thought it was. Go ahead.
Michael, someone already texted.
Oh, did they? I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Excuse me. Lauren, thank you. Exactly. I'm sorry, I didn't even see that. Shame on me. All right. Let's make that visible. Yes, the land or land, you know, whatever you want to. Okay, now this is an easy one. Papa. Note the long A though. So this is ablative. Any takers? You can either say it or text it, your choice, or message it. Pope. Yeah, but what kind of pope? See, this is ablative because it has a long A. Now this is kind of hard, and this is subtle, by the way, because, yeah, because if you were just doing, you know, if you just saw papa, well, it wouldn't have any of the macrons over it or any of those long or short vowels. So you would have to see that in a sentence to actually, you know, to appreciate that. But yes, it is ablative singular, and it can be from, with, by the Pope. We'll get more into the ablative later. It's a very useful case. Okay, ecclesiis. Oh, hold on, ecclesiis. So let me try that. Wait a minute. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Any takers? Yeah, it can be dative plural. I will highlight that. But there are other possibilities. And if it's dative, it means to or for the churches. And it is also, yes, Francis, it is also ablative, yes. The "is" ending is a very common ending for plural, dative, and ablative. And you'll see this in the other declensions. So I guess that makes it easier to memorize or to remember. All right. Vitarum. Genitive plural, yes. Over here. Is this big enough? When I turn the format on, it squinches the slide down. Is that big enough to see? Okay, good. Right. Yeah, there's not many options on that. Aquas. Accusative plural. All right. Somebody's hot. Okay. And that is visible. And by the way, did I mention last time that the is Latin doesn't have a the. So sometimes in English, you have to put a the in there to make good sense in English. Did I mention that last time? I forget. Anybody? Well, we'll cover it in the next, yeah, we'll cover it in, oh, Gloria, yes. Is the next one. There we go. All right.
Michael?
Yeah.
So this would not be ablative singular, right?
Well, not, okay, because I've marked the long and short
Well,
vowels.
you've been marking your ablatives before, so.
Yes, you're right. Now, if you were to pick up a book from the 1800s, or even recently, they may or may not be marking them. The markings are there for training wheels. Okay, we need to be able to pronounce Latin well. We need to distinguish between long and short vowels. Okay, for example, if I say veni, short e, that means I come. If I say veni, that means I came. Not a big difference. And even in English, it's not a big difference. It's a vowel shift. I come, I came. Now it's a fairly significant one from an O to an A, but same thing in Latin. Veni, short E, veni, long E. So
Is it necessary, Michael, if one of us is writing it out, to actually have the line over or not over the A, as long as it's the appropriate ending for the context that it's in?
Nobody writes it this way. Okay, this
Right.
This is strictly your training wheels. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been writing it that way.
If you want to write it out in order to help remember long and short, be my guest. But personally, I don't. In fact, the only time I do is teaching class. I consider it to be a royal pain. But no, you guys need it, and it does help me for me to kind of refresh my memory as to the long and the short vowels. But no, I would not normally write them out.
Well, and just to follow up that question, because the text does have the long A or the latter A in Papa, but it doesn't have the long A in Gloria. Is the editor trying to make that distinction in your
Correct.
judgment?
Yes,
Okay.
very much so. Very much so. Yeah, and this is to, again, reinforce this early stage of where we really can't do much other than, give simple nouns at this point, or maybe a preposition in a noun. Once we hit, now Alex knows this because he was here for the previous class. The next the next unit, which I'm really eager to get to, we hit the first declension nouns, which are masculine. So we get Deus, we get Jesus, we get a lot of Dominus, let's not forget that one. And we get the verb to be, is, are, etc. And so now we can begin some actual simple sentences. And in that case, these endings become a little more important in the sense that, to be honest with you, if you just see the word hore by itself, then it would normally be just the nominative plural. Okay. Latin writers and speakers didn't just throw the genitive, dative, ablative, or accusative out there. Unless it was part of a phrase, I take that. But generally, if you see hora, it means hour. you see hore, it means hours. If it just stands alone, it's only when you go into sentences that you begin to see the function of the other cases. So, but moving, oh, any questions at that point? Speaking of grazia, with an A line over the A. Oh, I think, yeah, somebody got it. Boy, you typed it in before I could even say it. That's kind of impressive. Yes, ablative singular, for, with, by, in. This is, when we recite the Ave Maria, gratia plena. And if you remember, we said filled with grace or full of grace. You can translate it either way. So that is an ablative form, and it means with or in. I mean, you sometimes have to massage it a little bit to get it into good English. Mrs. Sorry, Mrs. Dative or yes. Okay, whoop. Let me get that whole section there. All right, very good. Dative plural or ablative plural. Culpe. Genitive singular, that's one of them. Nominative plural, that's another one. There's one more. Dative singular, right. So let's get all of these. Right, and it means blame or fault. We kind of want to reinforce what the meaning of the word is. Cene. Nominative plural and genitive singular. Yes, and one more. Right, and dative is important because if you were being invited, it would be invited to dinner, in which case you would use the dative. So, doctrinum. Yeah. There we go. Right. All right. Whoops, I shouldn't highlight that. Families. Dative and, yep. Oh, wait a minute. Dative and accusative singular. No, it's not accusative singular. It is dative and ablative plural. Whoops. One more. Well, that was for the previous word. Oh, yeah. Just two things. Oh, you do have a dative and ablative plural. Wow. I can't read. That's all right. And lastly, whoops, hold on. That zoomed in a bit. Natura, and we have little a on the end. So yes, it is ablative. Yep. And then lastly, terra. Nominative singular. Yep, that's the only one. All right, well, that went amazingly well. Good. All right, prepositions. We also covered prepositions. All right, to review what a preposition is, it's a word governing a noun or pronoun and expressing a relation to another word or element in the clause. And in Latin, the preposition always precedes the noun. So good examples in English is the man on the platform. tells you where the man is. She arrived after dinner, tells you when she arrived. How would classical get, I'll get to that in a minute, Teresa. Rain down, ye heavens, from above. What do I mean by that? In classical Latin, they will make a little more use of the dative and the ablative and leave the preposition out, which can make it sometimes a little more fun to read. I realize that's, I'll see if I can find an example. I'll put a mental note to see if I can find an example where they would or wouldn't. Most of my stuff is ecclesiastical Latin anyway, but that may be a bit hard. Yeah, ablatives does, but also dative kind of has it. I mean, indirect object. So, all right. And we said that all prepositions have an associated case, and they fall into two categories. Accusative, and accusative generally indicates motion towards or at. There's I mentioned last time, there was a saying that going around NASA that is ad astra per aspirin. Now, aspirin is not Latin, so this is like this is 3/4 Latin, which means to the stars through aspirin. So ad astra means to the stars. Yeah, aspirina. Yeah, we could. Maybe we could. Actually, I will try and look up there. Believe it or not, there probably is a Latin word for aspirin. It's not in the Vulgate, but there probably is. I mean, there's a lot of modern terms. Oh, well, if that's it in Spanish, I suspect it's the same in Latin. I'll look it up sometime. But astra, this is a neuter noun, so maybe this was a bad example. So singular, it is astrum, and then plural, it is astra, and in the accusative, it is astra. We'll actually get to that in the future. Probably should have picked a better example. But anyway, ablative is kind of a catch-all case. It indicates accompaniment, placement, instrument. By or with is usually how it's translated. So ex corde ecclesiae, from the heart of the church. So ex corde, from, and it doesn't mean motion. It just means this is where this comes from the heart of the church, as opposed to somebody asks you, where did you come from? And you say Dallas. That's would perhaps indicate motion. And then
Michael,
we have,
quick question. In the text where it talks about ablative of accompaniment, they say that when you use cum or sine, that it typically refers to ablative accompaniment with a personal noun. But then
Yes.
later in that same paragraph, they say that it's sometimes extended to inanimate objects. So it almost seems like they're giving conflicting statements. What's your thought about that?
Do you know, is that in the first unit? That doesn't
It's in the
sound,
first unit,
is it?
on page 9
Okay.
of my text.
No, I'll take your word for it. Okay.
Well, I just bring this up because we just got through talking about ablative.
No, I know. Generally speaking, if there is a person, you use cum, and if there is an inanimate object, you don't. The key word there is generally. One of the things that we are dealing with here is over 2,000 years of language use. And so Some writers were a little more formal, if you wish, than others. So there will be cases where some of these rules will get bent a little bit. But yeah, for example, cum sancto spiritu, you'll the Holy Spirit being a person, an entity, you have to put the cum there. Let's see, do we have any good with grace? Cum gratia. There we go. You wouldn't really say cum gratia, you just say gratia in that sense. So one thing, and this is kind of early for everybody, but one thing you'll see later on is as we build up a vocabulary, you'll begin reading, hopefully, more and more Latin texts of some sort. And then you can get a feel for how the language is actually used. It's one thing to know the vocabulary, which you got to know, the grammar, which you got to know, but then ultimately you have to see how the language is actually used. And we'll get to that. Does that answer your question, Alex?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and the answer is sometimes, but not often. Okay, now one of the things, let me go back to this. Yeah, one of the things is some of these, okay. Ops, from, or X, from, okay. What's the difference? There are distinctions that Latin makes that English does not. Ad is another one, to or toward. In can be into, in, on, among. I mean, there's some shades there that I'm going to go through that where Latin makes a distinction that simply we don't make in English. If you remember last time I said the word to in English has something like 27 different definitions. I'm talking about TO. I'm not including TOO or TWO. Like we go to the store, infinitives, to love. It has a lot of uses. Well, Latin kind of breaks some of these up, and there are some subtleties there. But quick notes on prepositions, ad and ab, and in and ex. Okay, ad with the accusative, and ad and ab, by the way, are opposites. Okay, so ad with the accusative means motion. You're going to or toward, okay? Op, and I'm going to get into some more details in a minute. Op is from or away. So these guys are opposite. In and ex are opposite, although in is got a lot of different uses in Latin. In with the accusative is motion. So into, onto. In the ablative is position, okay? So if I would say I was going into the church, then I would say in ecclesiam. If I was just in the church, then I would be saying, I'm there, then it would be in ecclesia, because there's no motion, it's a state, I'm already there. And then ex plus the ablative is from or out of. So let me go through some of these. Let's see. Oh yeah, we got some time. Ad is, and I recommend you, when you get the notes, do read through these a couple of times, okay? I don't think he really doesn't go into a lot of, Collins doesn't go into a lot of detail in the book, I think, on these. So this is additional, yep, sedata dextram, right, which is destination. So ad is preposition with accusative, to, toward, at. As I said, it's the opposite of ob. and it indicates the direction toward an object, state, or the reaching of it. So when we say sedate ad dextram in the creed, seated at the right hand of the Father, he ascended into heaven and is seated at the right hand of the Father. Well, the right hand of the Father is the destination, the reaching of or attaining to it. And finally, the being at or near it from said motion. So we got a couple of examples here. You may have heard the Jesuits motto. I mean, like traditional Jesuits. I'm not sure what today's Jesuits motto would be. Hard to tell. But ad maiorem, right, same thing. Ad maiorem Dei gloriam. I was making a swipe at the Jesuits. So for or towards the greater, maiorem, bigger, larger, glory of God. So ad astra, to the stars. There was a movie by that name. We have in English ad nauseam, which means the same thing. Well, in fact, we stole it from Latin to point of causing nausea. And then the sedate ad dexteram patris, here to use to indicate the final destination. So we have the whole word of sentence in front of us. We have crucifixus etiam pro nobis sub Pontio Pilato passus et sepultus est, et resurrexit tertia die secundum scripturas, et ascendit in caelum, sedate ad dexteram patris. That is all one sentence, which in English is like huge, but because of the cases and the grammar and everything, it actually flows very well. So it just says, he was crucified for us under Pontius Pilate, suffered, was buried, rose on the third day, according to the scriptures, ascended into heaven, seated at the right hand of the Father, the final destination or state. So any questions on that? Okay. Up or ops is the opposite. It means from or away. So it denotes motion, first a departure from some fixed point, and it can be also in time. It can be both, a physical location, or it can be a point in time, or it can be a departure from a state. So from the Mass, you may or may not be familiar with this one, but aufer a nobis quesumus Domine iniquitates nostras, take away from us our iniquities. Aufer a nobis, okay? Op eterno, from eternity, or from the beginning. A cruce salus, from the cross, salvation. And just to refresh everybody's memory, is before, op or ops is always, let me try that again. If the noun has a vowel, there we go, let's put it this way, then you have to use op or ops. So we could say op eterno or ops eterno. Personally, I like op eterno. And if it has a consonant, then you can say a cruce. You could also say op cruce if you wanted to. So just keep that in mind. And part of that is it sounds better. If I say a eterno, it's hard to get those two sounds clearly separated if you're speaking clearly. So I suspect that's why they stuck it in there. In, oh boy, this is a fun preposition. Because it takes either the ablative or the accusative, and it either means in or within, meaning or on or upon or among or at, that's the ablative, or into, to, or towards. So it is the opposite, by the way, of ex, from, or out of. So If it is ablative, it denotes a stationary point or location in space, time, or state. Well, that sounds like something out of a nice physics book, space-time. It just means this is where you are. So, sicut in cielo et in terra. There we go. As it is in heaven and on earth. In cielo et in terra. Both of those are ablative. And Alex, this answers your question. Do I always write those wonderful macrons out? No.
No, it's not your fault. It was the text.
No, they write them out, don't they?
No, I'm saying when you posted those exercises, you posted them because that's the way the text.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't. That's not the fault. That was by full malice of forethought in order to distinguish them. So I wouldn't say fault. It was part of the exercise. Let's see. In populo, among the people. You might say in the people, but that sounds a little strange. It sounds like you're talking about a disease in the people or something. So I would use the word among. As I said, in, within, on, upon, or among. In populo, in septem annus, in 7 years. It can also be time. As I said, it can be point, location in space or time or state. We have an example of this in the Ave Maria. In hora mortis nostrae, in the hour of our death. In hora, in the hour, our death. And then in flagrante delicto, which is a English, Latin term that has been borrowed into English, which you may have heard of. Literally, while the crime is blazing, or caught in the act would be a better kind of colloquial version of that. If we're using the accusative form, then we're talking about motion. Et ascendit in caelum, sedate ad dexterum patris. Now there's a couple, he ascended into heaven. We wouldn't say he ascended in heaven. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. So we need to make sure that if we have motion that we switch to the right English form. So he ascended into heaven, sedate ad dexterum patris, seated at the right hand of the Father. We already covered that. So in saecula saeculorum. Okay. You may or may not be familiar with a lot of the endings of the doxologies, in particular the glory be to the Father and the Son, gloria patri et filio et spiritui sancto. And it ends with in saecula saeculorum. You also see it at the end of a lot of prayers, like per Domine nostrum Iesum Christum, qui vivit et regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti, Deus per omnia saecula saeculorum. Well, I guess that's a pair. That's a different one. But saecula is an age, and saeculorum is, these are masculine nouns, which we haven't had yet, but just to, sorry, they're neuter nouns. What am I saying? We haven't had them yet, but it literally means unto the ages of ages. It is a Latin expression for forever and ever. Who has ever wondered at the end of the glory be, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. What do you mean world without end? The world is of course going to end. You know, I can point to the secular sciences. You know, the world will eventually end when the sun goes into red giant stage. Won't be real pleasant around here. All the way to, of course, the Bible, where it talks about the end of the world and the second coming of Christ. So what does this world without end mean? Any takers? Other than those who were in the last class sessions who hopefully remember the answer? No takers? Wild guesses? Okay. we can thank the translation of the Latin prayers into English to none other than Henry VIII. When he had that little flap with the Pope, you may have heard about it. He kind of wanted everybody to pray in English. And this became increasingly so as time went on, and especially under Queen Elizabeth, where Catholicism was essentially outlawed in England. So, you know, if you were sitting there praying in Latin, it kind of was a dead giveaway. So he translated it, and World Without End, Amen is a Elizabethan saying. As I said, it literally means unto the ages of ages, and the good English translation would be forever and ever. So, okay, and then the prayer to Saint Michael, in infernum detrude, cast down into hell, in infernum. So that's another.
Michael?
Yeah.
Just to clarify something, in secula, secularum, it could be confusing to some that you're saying secula is ages. Is that because it's a second declension neuter noun?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it might be helpful to explain why secula is not singular but plural.
Yeah, I touched on that briefly. It's second declension neuter, which we'll get to very shortly. It is not actually, and in fact, that's why that O is in there, or one of the reasons why the O is in there. But yeah, Alex is quite right. It's a word we haven't had yet, but you've probably heard, you know, in prayers, and that's why I've chosen it. But yeah, he's right. It's second declension neuter. So we'll get them. X or preposition with the ablative, the ablative. I've been working too much entry on Orion, the ablative heat shield. Ablative, from, out of, X or and again, X is always before vowels. And generally, it's more frequently than just but you can use just before a noun that begins with a consonant. Anyway, it denotes out from the interior of a thing, as opposed to in, okay? From a location, up from, down from a point in time. It doesn't have to be a physical location. It can be a point in time or a state. Or it can be from a material from which anything is made. So we say, you know, my wine glass here is made from glass. Well, we would use X in that case. So some examples is ex cathedra, from the chair of St. Peter out to the world. Ex libris, from the books or out of the library, if you wish. Ex post facto, from after the fact, refers to something done after the deed, legal term. And then qui ex patre et filioque procedit, again from the creed, who proceeds from the Father and the Son. So, and note, who from Father and Son proceeds. That's the literal word order, which if you're going to say that in English, you got to rewrite the word order. So as I've said, word order is flexible. So let's see, a couple of examples. Again, ad plus accusative, motion towards, ad astra, ad nauseam, sedeta dexteram patris. Op ops, motion away, an ablative. Op aeterno, excuse me. Excuse me. Alfer a nobis quesumus. In plus the ablative is a location in space, time, or state. As we had, sicut in cielo et in terra, in hora mortis nostrae. as it was, as it is in heaven and on, sorry, as it is in heaven and on earth at the hour of our death. In plus accusative is motion into a place, thing, or state. Et ascendit in caelum in saecula saeculorum. And the reason this is accusative is because it just keeps on going forever. Ex, ablative, out from the interior of a thing, not necessarily motion, because ex cathedra is it's not really motion. If you got a letter in the mail and somebody said, who was that? Who wrote that? And you would say it's from Aunt Esmeralda. Right? You're not saying it came sort of directly, in space from her, but rather she is the source of it, if that makes any sense. Qui ex patre et filio procedit is an action as well. So it can be either stationary or active. Any questions? Because the next section is homework. All right. Any takers? Same thing. Coram familia. What does that mean? I'm willing to let Alex and Allison and Maria. Yeah, I would go in the presence of the family. Lucy, not so much the heart of the family, but in the presence of, or would be a better way of saying it. If you wanted the heart of the family, it would be like ex corde familiae, like the ex corde ecclesiae. Okay. What does the presence come from? Oh, okay. Good question. Coram, actually, let's go back. Where did I put it? Yeah. Coram can be translated simply as before, okay? The problem with the English before is if I said before the family, does that mean I'm standing in front of them? Or I made dinner before the, or is it temporal, meaning something happened before something else? Coram is strictly location, okay? It does not refer to time. So a somewhat pedantic translation is in the presence of the family. When we say coram, you may see coram te domine, before thee, O Lord, or something like that. It means you are in the Lord's presence. And so for now, we're going to translate it as that, okay? So just to distinguish it. Ad missam. Yeah, okay. Yeah, could be, but not for the mass, for the missal, for the mass, okay? To or toward, or for the, toward the mass or for the purpose of the mass. There's a couple of shades there. A missa. From mass, not missile. From the mass. Missa is mass. So when Father says ite missa est, he's just, well, oh boy, let's not translate that. That's got a whole history behind it. But misa there is mass. Just leave it at that. Cum papa. Yes. What is missal? Oh, all right. Any guesses on what missal is? It's actually, no. Let me sort that out. Okay, missal, yes. Cum papa is for the Pope. I'm answering a question in the chat room. What is missal? Misal or misalis, okay? Which is third declension. So missal would be misal or misalis. But cum papa is for the, or sorry, with the Pope, excuse me.
Michael?
Yeah.
Real quick, in slide number 11.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't, we don't go backwards in time. Now go ahead.
Okay, when we translated Papa, P-A-P-A,
Uh-huh.
would it be fair to say that Papa alone could only mean from, in, or by the Pope, but not with the Pope? Since, if I understood you correctly.
Oh,
you need to
yeah,
have-
you're right.
you need to
Oh,
have-
yeah, okay.
It can't be with the Pope. It
Yeah,
just-
you know what? I was automatically thinking of a cum stuck in there. So everybody take their pen and scratch out the with.
Well, I only bring this up because of the.
No, you're quite right. Part of, okay, I'll tell you the reason. Okay, the reason is because the ablative can mean with. I just basically put the default with in there, but technically you would have to say cum papa, not just papa like that.
And the reason is, in this exercise we're doing right now, on slide 22, it does say cum papa. So
Yep.
that's the correct way.
Yeah,
of
well,
saying-
yeah, keep in mind. All right, hold on. Let's go back to, what was it? 11? Yeah. Keep in mind that these words are plucked out of a sentence, and it could be, it could mean with the Pope. Okay, but you would put a cum in front of it. One of the problems is, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit, is if you just throw a word out there that's not in a, if it's nominative, well, that's easy. It means Pope. And if it's plural, papae, and then we have a real mess, then it means popes. You wouldn't say papae and just leave it there and mean a genitive plural. So yeah, it's the fact that we're doing, really, this is an artificial exercise. Let me put it that way. This is an artificial exercise. So yes, it could be with the Pope, depending upon what other words went around it. Let me put it that way. But you're right. If you really wanted to literally say with the Pope, then it would have to be this guy here, cum papa. Understand? Okay. Pro ecclesia. Oh, for the church. Good. Yep. Or on behalf of the church, which you will see. It can also mean in front of the church. The reason I say on behalf of the church is, again, I'm being a little specific here, in that pro in English, we say pro-life. That means for life, kind of in English. So the for the church is, or pro can mean for, but it means, specifically for in terms of on behalf of. So, okay, makes sense. All right. Apocclesia. From the church. Yep. All right. Ad gloriam. Yes, for the glory, or towards the glory, for the purpose of glory. Yeah. Pape ad gloriam. Now this one's a little tricky. Right, for the glory of the Pope. We do not have popes for the glory. This is where Latin can sneak a word order around. The reason they'll do something like this is to emphasize the word that's out of place. So normally in English, we would say for the glory of the Pope. And in Latin, you would say ad gloriam papae. But here you really want to hit the, I was going to say you really want to hit the Pope hard. Let me rephrase that. You really want to emphasize that it is this particular thing you're talking about is for the glory of the Pope. I mean, in English, you would kind of, emphasize that in your speech. So, all right. So, and again, I'm throwing in the purpose as in the purpose of. Oh, now here's an easy one. Let's see who can copy and paste their answer in. Yeah, same thing. Again, the only difference is in this one, you're kind of you're emphasizing the Pope. Here, it's in the normal word order. And now you know where Yoda's language came from. Yoda was obviously a Roman at one time. De vita. About life, yeah. It can be from life, but more than likely, if you just use the de, and when I say concerning, I mean about as well. De familiae vita, about family life or the life of the family, to be slightly more accurate. But you can say fine for the Pope. What about for the Pope of the glory? Yeah, that would be.
No, I just wanted to point out that the form of the Pope would be papam.
Yes, it would be. Why is, yes, you're quite right. Why is ad gloriam papa not correct to say? Okay. Well, all right. Ad gloriam is for the glory. Literally, what ad gloriam papa is for the glory Pope. Doesn't mean anything in English, does it? Or Pope for the glory. Makes a little more sense. Okay. All right. So,
Michael?
yeah, you need the genitive there. Yes.
On the same subject, if you go up to number 1, coram familia, in the presence of the family, the point there is that it's not familiae because coram means in the presence of.
Right.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. Good point. That's an excellent point. Yeah, this is, yeah, the coram is literally in the presence of.
So it's a preposition that takes the ablative.
Yes. Yes.
It looks funny that because you have of the family that you don't have the genitive there, but it's because in the presence of is a whole word or whole phrase in and
Yeah.
of itself.
Yep. Yep. And you could put the word before in there if you wanted, before the family or in front of the family. But a strictly literal is in the presence of. In fact, if you have a dictionary and you look it up, I think you will see it's the first definition is in the presence of, before the eyes of, in the face of, and lastly, the word before will work its way in there. But the idea is it's a koram is a physical presence of the thing that's being mentioned. Natura. Oh, with nature, yes. God, some of you guys type faster than I can read. Yeah. Yeah, it's a somewhat unfair exercise. In natura. From nature or from nature for the natura, but I was thinking in natura. Oh, from nature. In natura is next. Yes, in nature. Yeah, there we go. Yes. And let's see, which one is it? Natura mirante. Is that the Alma? Wow. I'm forgetting which one, which in Natura mirante. Oh, well, anyway. Okay. We have a few more. Let's see, what do we got? Yeah, let's see if we can get through these. And then we can go to we can talk about the Advent hymns. We've got about 15 minutes. A terrace. From the earth, well, from the earth works, but I prefer from, this is plural. So I would go from the lands or out of the lands, since it means X. If you want to do from the earth or from the land, then you need to make that a terra. In ecclesiarum terrace. On church grounds. Yep, that's not a bad translation. That's not the one that's in here, but that will work very well. Literally in the lands of the churches, which nobody says that. But on church grounds would work very nicely, very definitely. In terras. Plural again. So into the lands, okay? There we go, into the lands, in terras. And what you're probably referring to, in English, we would say, like the land of the Hebrews or the land of the Egyptians. When you're saying in terras, you're generally referring to countries or what would be the word? I don't know, ethnic groups. I'm not quite sure what the right word would be, but you're referring to the lands that people inhabit. Sine familia et ecclesia. Sorry, yeah, sine familia et ecclesia. I keep hitting the Zoom. Without the family and the church, yes. I don't recommend, well, or without family and church, which mine is even sadder. But yes, Lucy, that works fine. Et vita et aqua. Very good. Et vita et aqua. Both life and water. Vita aquaque. That's hard to say. Aquaque. Que. There we go. Well, vita is life. Aqua is water. Yes, water and life. Yep. Super terram.
Above the earth?
Yes, above or over the earth. And it is important. Whoops, I'm sorry, I made that invisible. There we go. Yeah, above or over the land or the earth. You know, if you look, I believe Genesis will use the super terram in there someplace. Now, super terra. And super is another one of those words that if you use a different case, really means something a little bit different. Yeah, over, not really over the lands. That's super terra. Well, okay. Over the lands would be super terris. Sorry, super terras, accusative plural. This is
Concerning.
Pardon?
Concerning the land.
Yes, this is about the land or concerning the land. You're talking. Let me put in concerning here, because about can mean something else. Oop. And there we go. Thank goodness for that. About as in not going about the land, but concerning the earth. So, cum gloria. Yeah, that should be easy. Whoops, there we go.
Michael?
Whoop.
Would this be a case where Gloria by itself could be with glory,
Yes, it could be.
since it's not a person?
And this is where the cum can sneak in there a few times. Okay.
So if you want to say with glory, you could either say Gloria or you could say cum gloria.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you where you would make that distinction. Oh boy, I can't think. I'm trying to think of an ecclesiastical example. I can't. All right. We'll go with classical. You know, before the legion or the army went into battle, you know, they'd say "Hail Caesar," and you know, if they were going into battle, they might shout "Cum gloria," you know, with glory, because if they just said "Gloria," well, does that mean glory? Does that? I mean, if you just let it sit there alone, you wouldn't really know what they were talking about. In fact, if you just have, in fact, in Latin, if you wanted to say the church exists, you would just say ecclesia, because the is, or you know, that would mean the church is, and is the verb to be, so it means the church exists. You just say ecclesia. So if you just say Gloria without any other context, it would mean glory exists, which is a very strange thing to shout before you're about to, you know, attack the invading barbarians. Or maybe you're invading, or maybe you're invading the barbarians. So this is where you would actually use that. Living water. Oh boy. Well, aqua. Okay. To live is vivere. So you use this as a participle. So it'd be aqua vivans. V-I-V-A-N-S. Let me type that in the let me type that in the window here. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me look something up here. Did I say something wrong? Yeah, actually, I'll have to look up. That's in the Vulgate. I'll have to double check on that. See how that was. There's a couple different ways that may have been said, but vivere is the vivo means I live. Vivere is the verb to live, and then vivans is living. But I'm not sure they used that in the in the Vulgate that way. I'll have to let me make a note of that. All right, living water. Yeah, I will look into that. Okay, anyway, sine culpa. Did we? Yeah, without fault. That I hear is a very popular phrase in Washington, D.C. amongst all politicians. Ecclesiae pro doctrinis. For church doctrine, yeah, or for the doctrine of the church, if you want to be a bit pedantic, or on behalf of the teachings of the church, if you really want to really stretch that out. So, all right, I'm doing pretty well here. Okay, in behalf of the family of the Pope. Any takers? This one's going to be a little trickier. You got to go back the other way. Well, I'll give you a hint. We got oh, it changed the whole. I gave you a whole answer. I just wanted the pro in there. Oh, well. Pro familia papae, on behalf of the family of the Pope. And this is where, or for the family of the Pope, you know, this is where, and avoid, try and avoid somebody's alarm just went off or phone. Try and avoid an excessively narrow definition of some words when you move them from Latin to English. Because they can become very stilted. I mentioned dictionaries last time. Do please hunt out a dictionary. You know, get a print copy. You can have an old print copy. I mean, I have some very old dictionaries that really haven't changed the Latin any. You'd have to probably go back to Cicero before you could find any differences. And if you have a dictionary that old, then I want to see it. And I don't know what he would be translating it into. Certainly not English. Anyway, and look up some of these words because it fleshes out a lot of the meaning. Maybe not so much so with this set, but anyway, in the presence of the Pope, coram papa, yes. 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 Oh, no, I missed that. I didn't see the M or the AE. No, coram papa takes the ablative. Coram papae, it would have to be coram papis before the popes. Okay. Oh, wait, coram papa. Yeah, Francis, you got it right. What am I doing here? But coram papae, again, don't let that in the presence of mess you up. That is the coram part. Without life. Yeah, sine vita. Yeah. At the hour. Yeah. Close.
Isn't it accusative?
No. No.
Not supposed to be.
Well,
odd
okay,
form.
all right. Well, okay, we got a couple problems here. It needs to be well, here, let me do this. I can't talk and mouse at the same time. That's
Ad horam.
close. It needs ad horam, at the hour. So ad takes the accusative. So you need a horam there. All right. And this is where you get into ad as being like a destination, if you wish. Sadet ad dexteram patris. Okay, here's now I didn't make these exercises up, by the way. These were in the book, but I thought this was for the purpose of the glory of the church. I don't think anybody says that way in English, but anyway. Any takers?
In gloria ecclesiae.
Yep. There we go. There it is. Yep. And or you can for this one you can use an ad or an in. Okay. I probably use an ad myself, ad gloriam ecclesiae, but in works with the accusative. So, all right, good. So, now we've kind of slogged through grammar and nouns and prepositions. And so you should start to recognize some of the words in the Ave Maria. Well, Maria is kind of, I mean, first declension words are marked in red. Well, Maria, I mean, you knew that one before you took this class. Gratia plena, these are first declension. Gratia, by the way, is in the ablative. Not that it really makes, there's a couple different ways you can interpret this. Let's not get into that. Here is the cum. This is a preposition. And for personal pronouns, they don't say cum te, with thee. They say tecum. Likewise, when the priest says Dominus vobiscum, it's not cum vobis, but vobiscum. They stick it in front. And I think the reason they did it is because when they developed the language, it sounded way cooler. You know, they got together, they had a committee. They said, hey, this just sounds way cooler than the other way. But that's still a preposition. Benedicta, first declension. To in mulieribus. Mulier is a different word for woman. We had femina earlier. Mulier generally means a married woman or a mature woman. Let me put it that way. Mature in the sense of they are not a young woman like a teenager or a little girl or something. And that's third declension. We'll get to third declension anyway, eventually. But anyway, you got in. And you got et, and then you got Sancta Maria, and then you got the pro, for, and we could translate this as pray for us sinners, or pray on the behalf of us sinners. Let's just use for, okay? Nunc et in, et we had, in we had, hora, ours, nostre. We actually haven't had this, but we see the AE ending. And it's in the hour in the hour of our death. So they're slowly filling in, and that's one of the reasons why I picked the Ave Maria. So definitely reread Unit 1, refresh pronunciation, review the first declension vocabulary, memorize it the best you can, commit what you can. Prepositions, do review these exercises. I've gone into a little more detail than what he has in the book. And practice. That's all I can say. Practice, practice, practice. Catherine, what do you tell the people in the choir?
To practice, practice, practice.
Thank you. Yeah. And this, yeah, Latin won't come naturally. I mean, it's going to take time to absorb it. The only way you're going to do it is if you practice. So, all right, let me see what's next. Oh, yeah. Any questions before we hit the Advent hymn? We're technically out of time, but I did want to take a minute to talk about Advent. Good, because I really want to talk about Advent instead. All right. As I promised, we're going to throw some of the cultural items, and unless you don't have a calendar and hopefully live under a rock because you weren't aware of it, we are now in the season of Advent. One of the very popular hymns is Conditor Alme Siderum. Conditor is, well, you're going to see that translated as creator. It literally means builder. Alme is kind, loving. It's got a number, and Siderum is stars. So creator or loving creator of the stars is often how you'll see that in English. Now, I had to put in a new YouTube link. When I had the charts up, I clicked on the old one that I had sent it out, and apparently if my luck is not terribly great, it turns out that is apparently not viewable, but you can click on this link or just search for Conditor Alme Siderum. It's used extensively for Vespers and Advent. I have an entry in my website. That's another one, bring up the PDF, click on it. You can see the words, you can see the translation. We don't have time to go through that. So I'm just going to kind of hit a few of the amusing parts. As I said, it's 7th century. The form I gave you is the original form. Okay. Now, popes fiddling with liturgy down through the ages is not a new thing. In 1632, Pope Urban VIII revised the hymns of the Roman Breviary, or Divine Office, Liturgy of the Hours. So when Father says, hey, we're going to celebrate Vespers this Sunday night, that's what he's talking about. Anyway, Pope Urban, he was a very smart guy, don't get me wrong, but he felt that the hymns should be in classical Latin instead of the words used by the original authors. So he revised a lot of hymns. This particular one, only one line of the original hymn remained. So I claim that you can't claim that the urban version is Conditor Alme Siderum because only one line is the same. You can click on that link and see the other one. He was an excellent classical Latinist, by the way. He was a very great Latinist, and he just felt that, hey, if it's good enough for Cicero, then it's good enough for the church. He's not the only one that felt that way, but he has the distinction of being the Pope who actually carried it out. There was a revision of the Psalms. Oh, and which pious... I've forgotten the Pope. Pope Pius the 11th, 10th, 12th? I've forgotten now. Revised the Psalms as an option for the Roman Breviary, where they were recast into classical Latin. I suppose it's not nice to speak ill of popes, but I hope he spent a little bit of time in purgatory for that, because, oh boy, someday I'll throw one up. But anyway, Pope Urban wasn't the first. And the thing that's kind of, the word that comes to mind is chutzpah, which is a Latin term, by the way. He was not content to leave alone the works of the great Latin hymnists, Prudentius, Fortunatus, or even Ambrose. You may not recognize those. I'm sure Catherine recognizes all of those. But he just took everybody's works and remolded them into classical forms. As far as I know, he never touched Thomas Aquinas. He probably would have been hounded out of Rome if he did, or out of Italy if he did that. But anyway, yeah, most of the people think this was not a good idea. And in fact, the religious orders were generally able to resist making those revisions, claiming the privilege of exemption granted by Pope Pius V because of the antiquity of their own breviaries. Where have we heard this one before? So anyway, Dominicans, Benedictines, Cistercians, and Carthusians just did not adopt them. If you get a breviary from these guys, you'll find that, hey, they got the old time religion version. And curiously, the revisions were never accepted at St. Peter's or the Lateran in Rome itself. Figure that one out. You know, if anywhere, the Pope's own churches should have had it, but they don't. Anyway, this produced two distinct versions of Latin hymns that were to coexist now for about 300 years. Whatever you may say of the revised liturgy, the current Liturgia Horarum has switched back to the original versions, which is something to say for it in its favor. The monastic breviary is got the ancient versions. So there's a little tidbit of history for you. In the future, I'm going to add another hymn or two for Advent. As I said, and the other thing is, by all means, look for chant and choral versions on YouTube. Or if you have a music streaming service, I happen to have Apple Music, so I can listen to anything in their catalog. They are like the largest online seller of music, that is. So I could probably sit down and find a chant version of just about every chant in this Sunday's Mass, if I took the time. Certainly, I have. I already have in my library the propers for the second Sunday of Advent. But this is actually a good way to become familiar with this rich cultural stuff. I realize it's a little hard because, you know, the Conditor Alme Siderum, you don't know the words to, but hey, it's on my website. Find somebody doing and I recommend chant. You can do the choral versions. Those are always excellent. Don't get me wrong. The difficulty with choral versions is there tends to be a lot of, what's the word I want? Melody and harmony and stuff that can make the Latin a little harder to distinguish. The chant is generally easier to listen to the words, but certainly choral versions are great as well. So, any questions? Nope. All right. Then let us close for the night. Oh, one other thing on the, go back and, as I said, before we go back and read Unit 1. I think we're ready to go to Unit 2 next time, where we introduce the second declension, the masculine nouns. So, you know, try and between now and then study the material in Unit 1. If you want to read Unit 2, go ahead, but consider that we will be, you know, marching through it. There are some more grammar concepts in there that may be a little alien, but once I think we go through it, you'll see what's going on. But definitely Unit 1, and if you're brave, read Unit 2. And if you're not brave, don't worry about it. Okay, I'm going to mute everybody. We will say the final prayer, and then I will stay on for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes after for post-class discussion. All right. All right. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. So with that, we're at the end of the class. If you want to leave now, go right ahead. If you want to hang out and ask off the cuff questions or anything like that, feel free.